We're just waiting for the clock to run down. It's 4:59, at least according to my iPad. They're always correct, right?
Right. I feel like iPads are pretty
Right?
correct.
All right. And Tony, did we hear from Tony, Laura?
No, nothing. I don't know where my phones even are. Where did I just put them?
Be around.
Oh, that's. I meant to grab mine out and put the other one away instead.
We're good.
Nope. Oh, it's right here.
If you watch the clock, it goes more slowly.
It's
The messages.
Oh.
Hi.
no.
That was fun last night.
Okay. No, I need her original one. No, I need her original one. I gotta get.
All right, it is 5 o'clock by my iPad. So, good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, and I'm going to call the City of Alameda City Council meeting to order. We are about to go into a special closed session, but we will start with the roll call. Madam Clerk Laura Weisiger, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Council Members Bowler.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Pryor.
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
I'm here.
4 present, and hopefully Councilmember Jasog will be here momentarily.
All right.
Oh, there he
thank
is.
you. Speaking of which, yeah, we're just going through the roll, council member. I'd count him as present.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please introduce our closed session items?
Yes, and
Oh,
I
sorry, Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on closed session?
we have none.
All right, with that, going once, going twice, no public comment on closed session, because it could be in person or remote.
Yep.
Okay, then we will close public comment on the closed session and only closed session items. So then let's move on to item 3. We're about to adjourn to closed session to consider a couple of items. Madam Clerk, would you introduce those items, please?
3A is conference with legal counsel existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 549569A. The court case name is the City of Alameda versus Greenway Golf Associates, Inc. Court is Alameda County Superior Court. Case number is 22CV011964. 3B is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The position evaluated is the city attorney and city clerk.
All right, thank you for that. So if I could have all staff and, of course, the council who are involved in item 3A to please join us in 391 behind the chambers, and to members of the public who may be watching, we expect to be back before you at 7 o'clock this same evening. So we'll see you soon. Thank you. Okay. Are we ready in the balcony? All right, the balcony's always ready. Thank you, balcony. We are beginning the meeting, so if everyone would please take their seats. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Alameda. Today is Tuesday, May 19, 2026. The council has just come back from closed session. Actually,
Recess.
sorry.
Yes.
We're here now, but we've just recessed our closed session. We will be going back to closed session after we complete the regular session. So, Madam Clerk, in that case, you don't do the announcement at this point because there's no announcement. So we will move on to the special joint meeting of the City Council and successor agency to the Community Improvement Commission, once known as the Redevelopment Agency. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Mayor Pryor, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
Thank you.
Please rise if you are able. Oh, sorry. Oh. All right. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Vice Mayor Pryor. Madam Clerk, would would you call the roll, please?
Council members Bowler.
Here.
Daysog.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Pryor.
Here.
Mayor Ezzy Ashcraft.
I am also here.
5 present.
All right, thank you. We have the consent calendar. These are routine items that can be approved by one motion unless there is a council member wants to remove it. Again, this is just for the successor agency. Don't we ask for public comment on the successor agency?
Yes, and there is none.
Okay.
No, just on the consent calendar.
Okay.
No, yeah, just, there's no other public comment section, no.
Oh, there's not. All right. Well, so what I do need, though, is a motion to approve, to accept the investment transactions report. Actually, let's let the city clerk please introduce item 2A, if you would.
Great, it's a recommendation to accept the investment transaction report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2026.
Thank you. Okay. So, council, do I have a motion, unless someone wants to pull this, do I have a motion to approve in a second?
Move approval.
Okay, I heard moved approval by Councilmember Bowler, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. Any council discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes unanimously, so we will then adjourn the successor, the joint meeting of the City Council and the successor agency, and I will call to order the regular City Council meeting. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Roll call has been noted, 5 present.
Thank you. And do we have any agenda changes this evening?
We do not.
Okay. So then we also don't have any proclamations or special orders of the day, so we will go into oral communications. And these are non-agenda items that over which the council has jurisdiction, and speakers may address the council for a total of 15 minutes now. If we run out of time, there's another opportunity at the end of the regular agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have speakers under oral communication?
We do, and they will get 2 minutes each. I will call up 3 at a time so they can move along quickly.
Great.
Oh, you want to read your part first, or?
Yeah, I will read my little
sure.
rules of the road. These are just, rules of conduct for city council meetings. And I just remind people that this is a business meeting. This is not theater. It's not a sporting event. We are here to do the city's business. And therefore, we don't applaud, we don't boo, cheer, jeer, do the wave. We just listen respectfully to people who are speaking. When it's your turn to speak, come on up to the podium. I always say make the microphone yours, about the level where your mouth is. And but when the when the clerk says your time is up, please stop speaking, or before that even. But again, we don't applaud, we don't boo, cheer, jeer, do the wave, and we don't do those things, A, because it's a business meeting, but B, and maybe it's even A, for many people, public speaking is one of the most stressful things they can do. And if they were to see someone being booed or laughed at when they're speaking, someone might decide not to get up and speak at all. And that would be a shame, because this is democracy in action. You have your allocated time to share your views in public like this at a council meeting. We also have young people present. We have some today, and we want to set that good civic example that's not always present everywhere we look these days, but here in Alameda, we try to do things the courteous way. And so just treat people the way you would like to be treated, and we'll have a great, productive meeting. Because, again, we want this to be a safe place for you to speak and to be listened to. If you have a sign to hold, that is certainly your First Amendment right. I only ask that if you're sitting anywhere but the very last row, don't hold it over your head where you would block the view of someone behind you, because everybody wants to see. Again, that's just treat people the way you would like to be treated. And then I have to read this language just in case I need it, and I'm sure I won't, but California Penal Code Section 403 states that it is a criminal offense for any person to, without authority of law, willfully disturb or break up any assembly or meeting that is not unlawful in its character, other than an assembly or meeting referred to in Penal Code Section 302 or Elections Code Section 18340. First violations will receive a warning, and continued violations will require additional action, which could include police intervention. And there I am done reading the rules of the road, so let's call our first speaker.
Okay, it's Maria Henderson, followed by Rick Lewis and Alexandra Tesada.
Oh, welcome, Speaker Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Maria Henderson with AC Transit. I'm here to share an important update about our bus service. On Wednesday, June 10th at 5 p.m., the AC Transit Board will receive a report on potential service reductions due to ongoing budget challenges. While the state loan has stabilized the next fiscal year for us, we are facing a $200 million deficit over the next 4 years. Without new sustainable funding, we may need to reduce service by more than 16% and also reduce up to 300 jobs. No final decisions have been made, and no specific routes have been selected. All of our bus lines are under review. If additional funding is not secured, any service changes would likely begin in June 2027. We remain committed to preserving service and being transparent about our fiscal challenges. An open house will be held before the June 10th board meeting at our headquarters in downtown Oakland, 1600 Franklin Street. And the community can learn more there and provide feedback on this contingency service plan. I'll share additional details in the coming weeks and look forward to working with you all to share this news with the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Rick Lewis, then Alexandra Tesada, and Teresa Zigera.
Welcome, Speaker Lewis.
Hello, thank you for hearing me. So I've lived in Bay Farm, Alameda for 32 years, and I'm an environmentalist and conservationist, and I'm the person who discovered the bald eagle nest at Carica Park. And so I'm here today really just to say, I wanted to make a note that Carica Park and Greenway Golf have been incredibly supportive of our birding activities. I'm not a golfer. I've lived by the golf course for many years, and I support any organization, management, administration, et cetera, that supports biodiversity, conservation, and environmental concerns. So I've been published many times in Audubon and Ducks Unlimited and Bay Nature, which is a local magazine. I belong to many, many organizations, and so that's really all I wanted to say, is that when we first approached Carica Park, we were very hesitant about whether or not they would accept what we were intending to do, and that was to open up the park for other visitors other than golf. And so the management team there has been very supportive of being inclusive and allowing us to do the birding activities. And we've taken hundreds of people on bird walks through Carica Park. Now, having lived across the street from the golf course for many years and being a birder, I used to look out off of my porch and see birds, but I didn't realize how many birds are there. So even though it's not a wild place, it is an open space. And my point is that their acceptance, their support has really made it easy for us to walk the golf course and conduct bird walks. And so really appreciate that, and that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Alexandra Cesada, then Teresa Zucchera, then Corinne Kirschbaum.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alexandra, and I'm here today not only as a community member, but as a woman of color and a small business owner who has personally experienced the impact Carica had on this community. I operated a small commissary kitchen in Oakland called Corner. It was a space built to help immigrant entrepreneurs, local food vendors, and help them grow and create opportunities for themselves and for their families. A lot of people in our community have talent, drive, but they don't always get access or opportunities. That was something we deeply cared about changing. When we started working with Carica, it became more than just catering. They welcomed local businesses like ours into the space and gave us opportunities to participate in events and community programs. But what meant the most to us were the summer camps. We were proud to donate food and support programs that gave kids a safe space and a positive environment during the summer. A lot of families rely on programs like these, especially in communities where safe spaces and mentorship matter so much. These camps give young people structure, confidence, discipline, and a sense of belonging. Seeing kids outside active, learning golf, building friendships, and being surrounded by positive role models was something that truly mattered to us. A lot of organizations talk about supporting community, but Carica actually invested in local people. They created opportunities for small businesses, welcomed diverse communities, and supported programs that positively impacted local families and youth. I'm here because I've seen that impact firsthand, and I believe it deserves to be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Teresa Zucchera, then Corinne Kirschbaum.
Welcome, speakers in Kara.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm here this evening to express my strong support of Greenway Golf. My son discovered and developed his love of golf thanks to the youth initiatives at Greenway. But more importantly, it was because of volunteering at Greenway that he learned he could give back to others through the sport that he loves. Over the past 4 years, he has volunteered in Carica summer camps, multiple Veterans Day tournaments, and even a tournament to benefit the victims of the LA fires. He and his friends were on the course for nearly 12 hours, playing over 70 holes of golf in order to raise money for youth who had lost their golf equipment and facilities in the fires. He came home inspired to do more, and I could not have been prouder of that group of young people. We should all be proud to have our young people engaged in this way and grateful to Greenway for creating a vibrant recreational space that promotes youth leadership, civic engagement, compassion, and inclusivity. They have enriched our entire city with exciting and diverse offerings that bring people together across generations and backgrounds. As a longtime public servant myself, I am very familiar with government requirements and processes. I know that contracting issues are fairly inevitable. I also know there is always a choice and many options in how lease and contract disputes are resolved if we place priority on keeping contractors who make our city a better place. As a resident, I respectfully request that you use your energies and resources to resolve any disputes and contract agreements and move forward in a manner that preserves Greenway Golf and all the valuable assets it brings our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Corinne Kirschbaum.
Welcome, Speaker Kirschbaum.
Well, we all know why I'm here. Tonight I'm asking one simple question. What data did this city rely on, and where did it come from? Because the documents do not line up. In 2018, the city's own homelessness report identified major gaps: lack of coordination, lack of local service access, lack of shelter options, and the need for documented outreach, case management, and accountability. Then came the Road Home, a 5-year plan promising measurable goals, coordination, data, annual review, and real outcomes. However, people who are actually listed on the Road Home to make sure that those goals are worked on have never even read the 5-year plan. They don't even know what the 5-year plan was, but they have goals they need to work on. Then came 2024 progress report, which that was only done because I asked for it. We had a city council member sit there looking at that progress report saying, wow, this is great. We should see this every year. Well, I hate to tell you, but you were supposed to see one every year. In fact, you were supposed to see one every 6 months, and you saw one progress report in 5 years. Now we have a new action plan. More staff reports, more approvals, more contracts, more public money, and still the same basic problem. We're starting at from the very, very beginning. Oh, look, we have a case manager. You don't even know what a case manager is. Where are the records proving the work was done? Where are the monthly reports? Where are the financial reports? Where are the outreach logs? Where are the evaluations? Where are the meeting minutes documenting these so-called oral reports? Where are the contracts amendments authorizing written reports to be verbal Zoom update?
Your time is up. Thank you. And our next speaker,
That
Madam
was our
Clerk?
last speaker.
Okay, that was our last speaker. So with that, we will close public comment, and we will move on. We will move on to our. All right, so we have, all right, I'll take just a moment for the door to close. All right, all right. Okay, so with that, we will close item 4, oral communications, and we will move on to item 5, which is the consent calendar. These are routine items approved by one motion unless council members remove items for discussion, and removed items will be called after our regular agenda items are completed, and council members may speak for up to, I see a hand up. Did you mean to take out a speaker slip for oral communication?
Sorry, it says I'm new in all of this, but I'm here to speak on about Corica Park, and I didn't get here in time, so I don't know if I should write my name somewhere so I get a chance to speak.
Yes and yes. Okay, some people might be attending a council meeting for the first time, so I'm going to exercise a little extra latitude. Is there anyone in this room that still wants to make comments about Greenway Golf? If there is, raise your hand so I can see who you are. Okay, just this one person. That is going once, going twice. Come on up. Why don't you come on up and speak, and then go see Miss Rosalina afterwards, and she'll get the speaker slip. We'll do it in a reverse order. So come on up to the microphone, and you saw how it was done before. So just tell us what you'd like to tell us, and make that microphone the right height for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi.
Hi, so my name is Sofia Tejeda. I didn't prepare a speech, but I was first introduced to Corica Park 2 years ago through Cal State East Bay. I was a college athlete, and I'm originally from Mexico, so Corica Park opened me with open arms. I always felt welcome there. I've never felt like I didn't belong there. And then I got an opportunity to be part of the camps. I was a coach, and later on, I'm currently an intern doing data analysis for them. So I'm the one in charge of looking at all the data that all our programs are gathering. And honestly, like all the impact that these people are making to these kids' life is amazing. Like coming from Mexico, I wish I had that opportunity to be able to enjoy free golf. My parents are here right now with me. They grinded to get me to where I am right now. I'm so thank you, that parents. But this is about Greenway, and this place is just an amazing place where we give so many opportunities to kids to come, not only learn about golf, but learn tools that they're gonna keep for the rest of their lives, because we not only care about golf part, we also care about their development, how they develop as kids, not only them, also the coaches, because I was a coach myself, so I got to experience all of the tools that Greenway give us, from how workshops on how to do our resumes, on like just caring about our own well-being. So I'm asking for all of you guys to take a look at all the work that is being done there, because it's meaningful, and it's just like some of the things that we need more nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you. And just see Ms. Rosalina, and she'll get your speakers up. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, we once again officially close oral communication, non-agenda items. We were on the consent calendar, were we not, Madam Clerk? Okay, so what I'm looking for, first of all, are there any items on the consent calendar that council wants to pull? Councilmember Bowler.
I just have a recusal for 5D, if I may.
All right, 5D.
Just,
playground equipment at Lydecker Park?
yeah, my home that I own is within 1,000 feet of Lydecker Park, so I'm just going to recuse myself on that one.
Okay, did you consult with the city attorney's office?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah?
I did.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Any other, that's not even a pull, you're just recusing, so you won't vote on that one. Any items the council wants to pull? Any council questions about any consent calendar items? Okay. Madam Clerk, do you have any public speakers on any consent calendar items?
No, we don't.
Okay, we will close public speakers, close public comment on the consent calendar. Any comments the council wants to make on the consent calendar? Councilmember Desog?
I'll be voting no on 5G, which
All
is
right,
a budget.
5G is the 5G is fiscal year budget. Okay. With that, I'm looking for a motion to approve and a second, with the caveat that Councilmember Bowler is not going to vote on 5D as in dog, and Councilmember Desog is registering a no vote on 5G. Who's going to make that motion and second it?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Pryor moves, seconded by Councilmember Jensen. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes with all the qualifications we previously stated. So now we move on to item 6A, with apologies to the Public Works Department because we kept you out late and then bumped you at the last meeting. So welcome. Come on up and go ahead and introduce yourself, and we're looking forward to the presentation. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Ricardo De La Torre, Parking Manager with the Public Works Department. So tonight, council is considering the introduction of an ordinance that makes 2 changes to the municipal code related to parking. The first is a housekeeping update to remove an outdated reference to a city employee parking lot that no longer exists. The second establishes authority for the city manager or their designee to set and modify the hours of operation for the Civic Center parking structure. So tonight I'll cover a brief background on the Civic Center parking structure and what's driving this request, walk through 2 components of the proposed ordinance, touch on next steps if the ordinance is introduced tonight, and then close with staff's recommendation. So as you may know, the Civic Center parking structure is one of the main parking facilities serving downtown Alameda. It provides parking to the general public, as well as city employees working here at City Hall and at nearby facilities. Over time, the facility experienced repeated vandalism during the overnight hours, particularly in and around the elevator, which caused ongoing disruptions to service. So to address this, City Council approved funding for security enhancements and other improvements to that structure, including the ability to close the facility overnight. Those improvements are now underway, and we will soon be ready to close the facility overnight. If you haven't taken note already, as pictured in this slide, The facility is absolutely beautiful inside and out. It is now painted, aesthetically improved all over. So the ordinance before you tonight would vest the authority to set and modify the operating hours with the city manager or their designee, giving the city the legal foundation it needs to manage and enforce those hours going forward. So to inform the decision around these hours of operation, staff took several steps. First, we surveyed garage users. More than 550 responses were received. Most respondents indicated a preference for closing at midnight and reopening at 6 a.m. We also looked at what comparable cities are doing. Staff reviewed parking structures in Berkeley, San Leandro, and Emeryville, including Oakland. These facilities generally close overnight, with most closing at midnight. Finally, staff conducted late-night parking occupancy counts over a 3-week period at the Civic Center structure and surrounding downtown locations. Data was collected between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. on both weekends and weekdays. The results showed that the Civic Center structure was operating at an occupancy of approximately 3% during those hours, while the surrounding downtown area within a 5-block radius had over 70% vacancy. Taken together, the data supports closing the facility overnight. In consistency with the survey results, with those survey results and what comparable cities do, the hours we do plan to implement are midnight to 6 a.m. So this ordinance has 2 components. The first, again, is a housekeeping amendment to Section 12-2.3 of the Municipal Code, which currently references 2216 Lincoln Avenue as a city employee parking lot. That lot no longer exists, and that site has since been redeveloped. It is housing. This change simply removes that outdated reference. The second component repeals and replaces Section 12-4.12 of the Municipal Code to formally establish the city manager their authority to set and modify the hours of operation for the Civic Center parking structure. And some of these key provisions include authorizing, again, the city manager or their designee to establish and modify hours as needed to support public safety, maintenance, and efficient operations. Requires that the hours of operation be posted on site, establishes that it is unlawful to park or leave a vehicle in the facility outside of the posted hours unless authorized, and provides that vehicles left outside of the posted hours are subject to citation or other enforcement action. If council introduces the ordinance this evening, the next step would be final passage on June 2nd. If adopted, the ordinance would take effect 30 days after that second reading on July 3rd, 2026. Following the effective date, staff will align any changes to operating hours with the completion of the Civic Center parking structure improvements. And before any new hours go into effect, staff will, of course, conduct outreach and educate the community to ensure that garage users know so that they can rather be aware of this change. Staff's recommending approving the first reading of the ordinance, amending the Alameda Municipal Code by amending Section 12-2.3 location of Article 1 parking lots of Chapter 12 designated parking, and by repealing and replacing current Section 12-4.12 reserved of Article 1 parking lots of Chapter 12 designated parking in its entirety, to authorize the city manager or their designee to establish and modify hours of operation for the Civic Center parking structure. Happy to answer any questions.
Nice job on the report, Mr. De La Torre. Thank you. Okay, council, do we have any clarifying questions about the report before we go to public comment? Madam Clerk, do we have public comment on this one? Any clarifying questions? Vice Mayor Pryor.
Hi. So this seems very thorough and very reasonable. I do have a question, though. So because it is in a downtown area, and if there are people who decide to leave their car because they've had too much to drink, they take, walk home or hire a car to get home. I don't know how often this happens, but I guess I have been in my 20s once. I have done this once, I do not drink and drive. I never have. So that's, I just wouldn't want somebody to be like, oh, no, I don't want to, I'm going to drive because I don't want my car. Anyway, so that's the only thing. Just because it is a downtown area, there are quite a few bars.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pryor, for the question. So staff anticipated that this could happen. Speaking from experience, it is not a good feeling when you go to retrieve your vehicle and it's locked up. What staff anticipate doing is making it very clear with posted signage that the hours of operation are this, and that the facility will be physically closed after hours. And if a vehicle is left in the facility, they will be able to retrieve it in the morning.
Okay. No, I know. I meant that as you intentionally leave it so that you're not drinking and driving. So I guess I was saying, so the odds that that person would get a citation are slim. I guess that's, yeah.
I think staff's practice is to not enforce and issue a citation. Of course, things could change, but we want to make sure that the goers and users of this facility fully understand what those operating hours are. We also plan to incorporate some of this information onto the ticket that the person receives when they pay for parking.
Okay. Yeah, and then I guess it's also we don't want people leaving their cars there for a week also, so I guess I was trying to figure out or is it more just safety, like having it closed at night, people coming there? Because it's a big empty space, so just trying to avoid that.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
Yes, Assistant City Manager Woldridge.
Thank you. One thing as well is that sometimes we have people camp overnight in the parking garage, so we are also striking a balance because we have had instances where people become kind of entrenched and it's a little bit challenging to get them out. And so we're striking a balance of kind of everything you're talking about, and someone could come get their vehicle in the morning, but also needing to strike, they could get a citation if it's left overnight, because we do need to strike a balance of safety and security in the garage overnight.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions, Council? Councilmember Jensen.
To follow up on that, what is the citation in the parking garage for leaving your vehicle there when it closes? Is that the same as if you left your vehicle on the street, or your meter expired? What would be the penalty?
So currently, per our master fee schedule, we have a variety of citations that we could issue. I would imagine that the citation that would be issued would be from the municipal code, not a vehicle code violation. Most of our municipal code violations range between $40 and $60, depending on the circumstances and the type of violation. Currently, in what's going to council June 2nd, there is not a citation that says there's no fine with the title or description that says leaving a vehicle in a facility overnight. But we'd make sure that we would use the best municipal code.
Thank you. And then when the facility is closed, is that automatic, or is there a staff person that comes and closes it?
That's a great question. So operationally, we wanted to make sure that we were best prepared. And some of the things that came to staff's mind is we have a facility. Let's say that there's 5 vehicles left in the facility. It does not make operational sense for these overhead coiling doors to just close automatically. So we plan to have one of our parking operator arrive at the facility about an hour before closing time. and they will flesh out the facility. And what that looks like in reality is a human being walking through the stairwells and down the drive aisle to ensure that that facility is free of life, if you will, or in vehicles. And then what they will do is they will be able to manually close with a key switch the coiling doors at the stairwells and the drive aisle from the stairwell near the theater.
So there is a potential that that vehicles will be locked in overnight, and there's also a potential that there could be people not readily apparent in the vehicles.
Absolutely, and that is the common theme across all agencies. I mean, vehicles will get left in, whether the driver simply doesn't care or if they're preemptively ensuring that they're driving safely. But yeah, it does happen.
Thank you.
Wait, it does happen that people are left in the vehicles when the garage is closed overnight? Is that what you're saying?
I cannot speak to that, no, but what I'm referencing is that vehicles could be in the facility after night. So in the event, just operationally, if our parking operator observes what appears to be a person in a vehicle during that closing hour, the parking operator would try to make contact with that person, say, hey, we're shutting down. And if there's any reason that the parking operator feels that they need additional support, then we would rely on some of our other agency staff.
Okay, you're talking about calling the police?
Calling the police.
We've got 3 members of APD in the audience. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you would do everything possible to make sure no one is locked in inadvertently or even intentionally in the garage overnight?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Jens, was anything further for you? Okay, any clarifying questions? Let's go to public comment. Oh, was there more for you, Assistant
I
City
just wanted
Manager?
to add one
Yes.
final comment that of appreciation for Mr. Delatorre, that there's been quite a bit of collaboration leading up to this with our office, parking, as well as APD, and there has been a lot of conversations of kind of if this, then that. So just for you all to know, those conversations have happened, so both looking at best practices at other cities, as he mentioned, as well as we're in lockstep with our police department.
Yes.
And if I could also give a shout out, if you will, to the Housing and Human Services Department. You know, peeling back the years prior to COVID, things were much different in the downtown area. And then cliche, the pandemic happens. The types of behaviors have started to change at the facility just naturally. I think within our region, we've all kind of figured that out. Since the inception of the Housing and Human Services team, I will say, as someone that manages that facility, there has been a dramatic decrease in the types of behaviors that we've been observing. Why is that important? Well, because there's been services from Housing and Human Services staff that have been making their way to that facility, and it's been great.
And I'm going to just add on to that, although it's not quite a question. I'll do a Jeopardy question of it. But so just this morning, there was a press conference at the county courthouse in Oakland, and it was to announce the results of the 2026 point-in-time count that some of us helped with in January of this year. It's done every 2 years. It's a HUD requirement, Housing and Urban Development in D.C. And I am very pleased to announce that the city of Alameda's homelessness numbers decreased, and this is from 2 years ago. 2024 was the last time we did the count, decreased by 46.8%. And Assistant City Manager Wooldridge, I think we were the greatest decline in the county, but when I was helping draft the press release, I didn't want to sound braggy, so I didn't put that in. And I didn't calculate all, but I think so. But what I was going to say is, this year, this January, and 2 years ago in January, I was assigned the same census tract. 2 years ago in 2024, Chief Joshi, who's back there, we were on his team, 3 of us, and in the Civic Center garage on almost, and we go out at 5 in the morning, and But on almost every level in 2024, there were people camped in tents or in their cars or just in sleeping bags. And we interacted with as many as would talk to us. And 2 years later, there was no one. There was, on the top level, a vehicle that had shades down, and so we didn't disturb it. It might have had someone, but it might not. And it was like that in the rest of the tract. And so I was telling someone at the press conference today that I actually could sense, I mean, it certainly seemed like we'd made improvements, but even when we were there in 2024, they were doing work. They were cleaning, Public Works, there was cleaning and just repairing and things like that. And 2 years later, it is just so evident, and I'll talk more about this later in council comments. It is because the teams like you're talking about and Assistant City Manager Wooldridge oversees them have been providing resources and services and places for people to come indoors and to be housed and be helped. But the work being done at the Civic Center garage was, for the Civic Center area, a much better, safer, more humane way to deal with people who need someplace to stay, but that was not a good place. So anyway, huge kudos to Public Works and Housing and Human Services for all the good work. Thank you. Okay, now we will go to our public comment.
Mitch Ball.
Welcome, Speaker Ball. And you can go ahead and have a seat, Mr. De La Torre. Thank you.
Hello. I visited the spring market on Central right next to the parking garage the weekend before last city council meeting, and it was a lot of fun. The music was great, the food was tasty, and all the little business kids were very adorable. It did take up a small parking lot and some street parking to run this event, but because it was located immediately next to a parking garage, there was still plenty of available parking. For this reason, the city should strongly consider expanding the permanent pedestrian-only section of Alameda Avenue and making long-term plans for conversion of the parking lot between Alameda Avenue and Central Avenue into a park. This would support local businesses with more foot traffic, provide more public space for the community to gather, and give high schoolers a safer walking route to Park Street. It is, after all, named Park Street, not Parking Street. Now, despite there being plenty of ample parking at the parking garage, there were still plenty of illegally parked cars getting parking citations at this event. There's an important lesson to learn here. Despite the city spending $9 million to build this parking garage and now over $1 million to renovate it, many people still ignore it to instead park illegally because the problem was never that there wasn't enough parking. The problem was that there isn't enough immediately available parking immediately next to the destinations people want to reach. I've spoken about this before, but I believe it's worth reiterating. This was proven by a study the city conducted in 2014 that showed that the parking garage is often mostly empty despite all adjacent street parking being nearly at full capacity during peak hours. The solution here, as identified by this study and within later resolutions to accept grant funding, is demand-based parking, which means increasing the street parking rates until there are parking spots available. Given that we've accepted grant funding for this purpose, and it appears through this ordinance that the parking garage renovations are making good progress, I'm really excited and supportive of the city finally implementing demand-based parking and solving a problem that was identified over 10 years ago. Once we do this, we will finally have available parking on Park and Webster Street, better utilization of the expensive parking garage, and far less cars endangering cyclists' lives by double parking on bike lanes. All this being said, it is possible that this may cause spillover in some nearby residential streets, so I encourage the city to start looking at implementing residential parking permits. The laws of supply and demand tell us something very important about artificial price fixing. If a good or service is artificially priced lower than its actual market value, the good or service will eventually experience shortages. This happened with food in Venezuela during the Great Recession, and is happening with parking in Alameda today. Free parking equals unavailable parking, and each step the city takes that acknowledges this fact is a step in solving the single biggest complaint the city faces when it tries to do anything, from building affordable housing to protecting pedestrians and cyclists to just letting kids play baseball. The complaint that we can solve that we often seem to hear is, but what if there's not enough parking? Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our only speaker?
Correct.
Okay, we will close public comment on item 6A, and we can open it up for council discussion and hopefully a motion and second and a vote to approve this ordinance and move it forward. Who'd like to go or make a motion? We have other items, Council.
Move staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Councilmember Daysock. Thank you, Vice Mayor Pryor. We've had a motion by Councilmember Daysock, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion passed unanimously. Thank you so much to Mr. De La Torre. Good work. And we will move on now to our next item. Madam Clerk, would you introduce item 7A, please?
Yeah, is a public hearing to consider introduction of ordinance amending the Alameda Municipal Code by amending Section 30-16 inclusionary housing requirements for residential projects. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, this action is categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3.
Welcome. Hi.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Abby Thorne-Lyman, and I am here tonight in my capacity as interim co-director of the Planning, Building, and Transportation Department, here with my colleague, Director Emeritus Andrew Thomas, to present on this item. So tonight, staff are presenting the first reading of proposed amendments to Municipal Code Section 30-16, the inclusionary housing requirements for new development. Inclusionary housing policy requires developers of market rate housing under certain conditions to provide a minimum percentage of housing units that are affordable to households at different lower income levels. This ordinance has not been updated in the city of Alameda since 2004. And as you may imagine, market conditions have changed a bit in the last 22 years. Staff are recommending amendments tonight, which I will go over, and are further recommending that staff continue to work on bringing back a policy and necessary studies to potentially allow for developers to pay an in lieu fee, which I'll discuss. The City Council adopted its current housing element in 2022. This state-required plan identifies ways in which the city will meet its regional housing needs allocation of producing over 5,300 new housing units over the 8-year period of the plan. Meeting this goal would require the city to build 669 new units per year, but unfortunately, due to a lack of construction, the city has only delivered 447 units total in the initial 2.5 years of the cycle. In addition, the housing element lays out programs that the city will implement to help catalyze new housing development. One of these programs was amending the inclusionary housing ordinance to lessen or eliminate the number of moderate income units and increase the number of low and very low income units. Staff commenced work on a new ordinance in 2024, pulling together an ad hoc working group of internal city staff and planning board members to work through the details, and hiring a consultant to evaluate our policy options and conducting, in addition, we conducted study sessions with the planning board and the city council in late 2025. In April, staff brought forward a draft ordinance for the planning board to review, and the planning board recommended recommended the draft ordinance to the city council with several revisions to ensure that developers had greater clarity and that approved projects would have a way to take advantage of the change in the ordinance. In addition, the planning board recommended that staff return within 12 months with an in lieu fee. The major changes to the ordinance modify the percentage requirements in order to meet the goals of the housing element and decrease the number of moderate income units while increasing low and very low income units. This will address the fact that some income restricted moderate income units in Alameda are remaining vacant because rents are similar to market rate rents for apartments. Currently, the ordinance requires that 15% of units in developments that are delivering more than 4 units be provided as affordable, with 7% moderate, 4% low, and 4% very low. Staff recommend providing options to offer flexibility for developers, including the options shown on the right of the screen: 15% low income, 5% very low and 5% low, or 8% very low, or an economically equivalent option. These options were derived through the analysis conducted by Street Level Advisors, the city's consultant, which demonstrated that though you may see different percentages of units, these all equate to an economically equivalent cost to the developer. The revised ordinance also recommends that the developer be allowed to propose something of an equal economically equivalent option. And MTC, which has published the Transit-Oriented Communities Policy, which this is consistent with, has actually published a tool as well so that we can calculate what economically equivalent percentages are. The ordinance currently requires ownership housing to provide income-restricted options for projects delivering more than 4 units at 4% very low, 4% low, and 7% moderate income households. Staff have found that home ownership is still, despite these income restrictions, often out of the reach of very low-income households who cannot afford the down payment requirements of owning a home. However, we have well more than enough demand for moderate and low-income households to purchase a home. So staff are recommending modifying this option to focus more greatly on moderate and low-income households and less on very low-income households within the 3 options shown on the right of the screen. And as well, we are recommending that the ordinance include the ability for a developer to propose an economically equivalent option, just to give as much flexibility as possible. There are a couple of additional critical amendments in the proposed ordinance tonight. The first is changing the term for the affordability of rental units from 59 to 99 years. This is a fantastic way to ensure long-lasting affordability of these units, which while simultaneously limiting the impact to developers who are looking at their financial terms for a shorter length of time. And we are finding here in the Bay Area, a lot of affordable housing units are reaching the end of their income restricted periods, and we are actually losing affordable housing units throughout the region. The current ordinance discusses clustered development, but in the current ordinance, it states that clustered development is about provision of off-site affordable housing units, where what the city's practice has been in clustering the provision of inclusionary housing units has actually been a dedication of land adjacent to or within the same development as the market rate units. So in the proposed ordinance language, we've clarified and codified the current city process that we have already been using, where cluster development is defined as a developer providing land, dedication, or money within their own development project for a 100% affordable building. This cluster development is a great way to actually leverage outside affordable housing subsidies, so you can actually deliver far more low and very low and even extremely low income units because you're bringing in that outside subsidy, and the developer's provision of land is actually counting as match. And lastly, per the Planning Board's recommendation, staff have clarified that there is a process for entitled projects that have not yet been built to come and apply for revisions to their inclusionary projects so that we can kickstart more housing development in the city. Additionally, we've established a process for rental projects with vacant moderate units, so that already built projects to apply to convert their vacant moderate units to low-income units. So that gives an option to address the vacant moderate income unit situation. There are protections in the proposed draft ordinance to prevent developers from displacing current tenants. The current draft ordinance retains the exemption for projects of 4 or fewer units and allows projects of 5 to 9 units to pay an in-lieu fee instead. We want to acknowledge that the Planning Board recommendation actually was to increase this exemption for projects with 11 units or fewer, and that is consistent with MTC's Transit-Oriented Communities Policy. Staff did not include that in the ordinance, but if that is a change that the council would like to make, staff could recommend that as well, and it is consistent with MTC's Transit-Oriented Communities Policy. On the in-lieu fee, staff recommend pursuing this study in the next 12 months. And we do believe this is a national best practice to have an in-lieu fee. And we think that this actually would be a very good practice because it does create a local funding source that the city could actually flexibly use as it wants to achieve its own policies. In conclusion, staff recommend the amendment to the ordinance. We believe that the amendments tailor our inclusionary requirements to both meet our housing element and align with MTC's Transit-Oriented Communities guidelines, which makes us more competitive for funds. The amendments will have immediate benefits by stimulating at least one development project to move forward. And we also would just recommend that we revisit this ordinance more frequently. Let's not treat this ordinance as a static document. Let's come back because the market will continually change. So with that, our recommendation is approval of the first reading, direction to continue to work on the in lieu fee provisions, to come back within 12 months. And if you would like to modify it to increase the exemption to 11 or fewer units per planning board recommendation, that is acceptable to staff. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Nice job, Ms. Thorne-Lyman. Any clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Vice Mayor Pryor?
Yeah, I have a couple. For the rental housing project requirements, I don't know what page it's on, but that's the title of the slide. It's so there are the three options. I think what I heard, so I guess, and I didn't hear from you, so I've heard it just over the past, few weeks, or, talking about this ordinance. Sorry, rental housing. That there are people that might fit in the category, and that's why, by the way, I do agree with the review of the ordinance. But currently, the way low income is defined, that people that are very, very low income might have access to more funds from different agencies or groups, but people that might qualify or be considered low income don't. Is that correct, or is that typical, I guess, is a better?
Are you referring to, say, Section 8 vouchers?
That would be an example. That's just the way when I was, it was, I don't want to say it was explained to me, but from my understanding of it, that's why I was just asking. So if I were considered low income, this would be really beneficial to me. I guess as we're discussing options, I guess, for example, option 3 is to focus on people that are very low income, and then it would be 8%. There'd be 8% available, and so I guess what my question is, it's kind of a leading question, but is it your opinion that choosing option 1 would statistically benefit more people, based on that they're going to have people that are considered low income are going to have less resources, I guess, to supplement their income for housing?
So I guess I should just clarify, and I think that we've experienced some confusion over this matter a couple of times, so I just want to make sure everybody in the general public is clear. We're not asking you to choose between the options. You may not say that's what you're saying. The intent is all four of these options are in the ordinance, and that what the ordinance language says is the developer may choose and bring forward a package, a mix of units in any of these 4 combinations. The 4th combination, of course, they would have to prove to us that it's economically the same as the others, but we're not asking council to choose. We're actually written into the ordinance is the provision that the developer can choose among these.
Okay, great, thank you.
That's critical. Yeah.
Well, then I think that clarifies my second question also, so I'm good with questions.
I will just throw in that on that point, and yes, that is correct what the ordinance says. At least one of us up here thinks that not just the developer should get to make the decision about the mix, but there should be input from the city. So that's something when we do our discussion we can talk about. Okay, other clarifying questions, council? I'll bet you we have public comment. Do we, Madam Clerk?
We do.
All right, let's have our public comment.
Okay, we have 4, so we'll get 3 minutes each still. Sean Murphy, followed by Tushan Amara Siri Wardena, and then Zach Thayer.
Welcome, Speaker Murphy.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council Member Sean Murphy, Pacific Development. So Pacific Development was part of the Alameda Marina Master Plan, and we delivered that first project, which is called Launch, 368 units in 2023. And we're here tonight to endorse what both the Planning Board and the staff are recommending for the inclusion out in the ordinance revision. So the Foundry project, which is truly shovel-ready, represents 259 residential units and one work-live unit for 260 units in total. All of those entitlements and building permits are completely approved and ready for that final vertical phase. With this project, it completes that master plan that totals 801 units on the northern waterfront. Every project is different on this island, and optionality is really important, so that we can all navigate how best to deliver housing on the island. Clearly, we have economic conditions ahead of us today that make housing essentially unfeasible. The Foundry project is not a typical project. It sits on the waterfront. It includes the development of significant bay trail improvements, sea level rise, environmental remediation, both of fee simple as well as tideland properties, deep soil mixing and stabilization because of its adjacency to the water, and important adjacent commercial parking lots for the Maritime Corps. So those are the elements that make this particular project unique. And again, optionality for solving inclusionary housing ordinance, and that requirement is really important so that we can study what is financially feasible. We plan to develop this project and build this project this summer and start construction immediately, utilizing option 3, which will provide 21 very low income units to the island. There's a great need today for very low income units. To address one of the questions, yes, Section 8 can be used for both low and very low. We have Section 8 residents in our launch project today. Foundry is truly shovel-ready, and we're committed to building this important project, which will develop 260 units, 21 of which will be very low. We appreciate the city's partnership so that we can build more housing on the island. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Our next speaker is, well, we're also going to go to 2 minutes because we now have 5 or more speakers because we have remote.
All right.
And the next speaker is Tushan Amarasiri Wardena, then Zach Thayer, then Teresa Ruiz.
All right. Come on up, Speaker Amarasiri Wardena.
Howdy. Thank you for considering this really wonky material. Just watching it moving through planning board and up to here, it's been one of the harder ones to grab one's head around. But I hope you move forward and approve this, because I think it, just at a singular level, it unlocks a large project that happens to be in my neighborhood. The Foundry is down on Clement Street, just a couple blocks from where I live, and I can say that the whole northern waterfront project is something that my family has enjoyed, but my whole neighborhood has enjoyed. And more importantly, we have new neighbors that enrich our neighborhood and our schools. In fact, a couple of my kids' friends are some of those new families that moved in. And while we're talking about metrics and numbers on a spreadsheet, I think what we really should also keep in mind is that these are doors that open up for people to live in our community and not, in Mountain House and taking 2 hours to get out here. And so I think it's really important that we move on this. And I just want to reiterate some things that I mentioned in the letter that I shared earlier today too. Is the New York Times had a great editorial yesterday about the housing crisis. And their conclusion was one of the best ways to solve this that we've seen in Raleigh, where I went to school, or in Austin, Texas, is that by building more, it opens the supply to meet the demand. And I feel like we have a very clear link to opening up a project. So yes, thank you so much for your consideration on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Zach Thayer, then Teresa Ruiz, then Corinne Kirschbaum.
All right. Welcome, Speaker Thayer. Is that you, sir? Speaker Thayer? Would you like us to have the next speaker go while you make your way up the aisle? Do you mind, Speaker Ruiz? Come on up. Nice to see you. Hi.
Madam Mayor, members of council, good evening. My name is Teresa Ruiz, and I'm here speaking as a private citizen and not in my capacity as planning board member. I am here in support of the ordinance in front of you. As a private practitioner, I'm a licensed architect practicing in the multifamily space. I see firsthand how inflexibility in local ordinances can put stumbling blocks in to unlock the housing development. And current ordinance in its current form doesn't work. As we can see, there hasn't been any development. We have vacancies, not being able to serve the population that's in need. Is the proposal perfect? No, but it's progress towards the right direction. We need to ask ourselves, what is the role of government? Is the government to regulate everything, or is our role to provide safety nets for the private sector and the market to do its thing, even in difficult economic times, that we can still meet the needs of our residents? And that's what I ask you to consider. So tonight I ask you to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker.
Back there.
And so just for future speakers to keep things moving along, when you hear your name, just be ready to come on up. Hello.
So, Audi, 5992, a domiciling doesn't show a quadric date. If you have property abatement applications, the DD filing, and instead of Roth IRAs based on S versus C Corp as LLC self-employment based on square footage tax abatement. Irrational zoning doesn't show qualified deviation, and a credit approval is in an ISM assembly. How that is wondered in housing, theoretical distribution efficiency standards are an equitable application in CAD or CAD designs. You can't bid proposal, tax abatement 79832.26 changed HR 5794 versus 5798 in the state Senate based on appraisal models, efficiency standards, and LLP formats. Marriage isn't supposed to be a master limited partnership versus PLC based on appraisal, duality. If some symbolic application of domiciling isn't that as credit card statement efficiency standards, bond proposal efficiencies would be wondered. 15937112 triethylene hexachloride samples is in Hensley v. the NRDC. A question I wish to propose in view of this. So I call it random in view of housing in GV Australia.
Thank you so much, and your time is up. Our next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Corinne Kirschbaum.
Welcome, Speaker Kirschbaum.
So the issue is no longer whether there were red flags, because the city's own records show there were. The city's February 23rd, 2023 monitoring report of Village of Love says the monitoring period covered 2019 to
So
present.
I'm going to stop you there, Ms. Kirschbaum. We are now on item 7A, which is an ordinance to amend the inclusionary housing requirements.
Okay, so then when do I come back up?
For non-agenda items at the end of the regular calendar.
Okay.
Okay.
You can only speak once under oral communications on agenda.
Oh, that's true. That's for people who didn't get a chance to speak
Yeah.
during item 4. All right, and our next speaker?
Andy Wang.
Welcome. Is he remote? Because I don't see him in the room.
He's remote.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome, Speaker Wang.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members. My name is Andy Wang. I am a member of the Planning Board, which has participated in multiple deliberations on this ordinance already. I'm speaking again tonight as a private resident who wants to see more housing in the Bay Area. And I want to underscore the importance of this legislation as a small stepping stone to getting there. The inclusionary housing ordinance that you have before you this evening is really, in my view, a modest and sensible update. Among other things, it removes a problematic moderate income tier for rental units as a requirement for new developments. This moderate tier has been well documented in the Bay Area as one that simply doesn't work. It provides flexibility across a menu of affordable income tiers. Given the many constraints facing developments in the current market, flexibility within a framework defined by the city is an important policy ingredient that could improve feasibility for future projects. It aligns us better with state law. It aligns us with regional policy benchmarks, which will give the city access to a huge pool of grants. It formalizes a pathway for land dedication and satisfaction of affordable housing requirements. Lastly, it would raise the threshold of applicability should council choose to adopt the recommendation. While the current rules apply to developments 5 units or more, the proposed ordinance would apply to projects 11 units or more. Removing requirements from smaller projects is intended to support the type of small-scale developments sponsored by mom-and-pop developers known as missing middle housing, an important piece of our housing puzzle. Passing this ordinance would be a win on multiple policy fronts, including moving the needle on delivering more housing at a time when the city and region have produced vanishingly little. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker?
And that was our last
That
speaker.
was our last speaker. So with that, we will close public comment. And I'm just going to make a little commercial here, a PSA. We heard from not one, but 2 of our very impressive, outstanding, talented planning board members. Okay, I appointed both of them, but the full council approved them. There are currently openings on some of our, all of our boards and commissions are important, but we have openings right now on the planning board, Transportation Commission, Social Service Human Relations Board, Historic Advisory Board, Civil Service Board. Go to the city's website and check them out, because I know we've got talented residents out there just wanting to serve their community, and it's just so impressive listening to the kind of expertise that we have serving us on our boards and commissions. Okay, I will step down from my soapbox and do we have, now we're open for discussion. Councilmember Daysog, you're looking at your notes. Do you want to lead off?
Well, thank you very much for bringing this back. We had a spirited discussion last time, and I appreciate the product that we're seeing before us, and to hear that one of the developers with a major project feels confident enough to move ahead because of the changes, I think speaks volume of the work done by our staff and our executive team. So I just want to express my appreciation and look forward to this, because we all know that Alameda, as well as the Bay Area, we're all in a housing crisis, and anything that each of us on the city council can do to alleviate, lessen the difficulty that so many face when it comes to finding affordable housing, I think is a welcome step. So I certainly join my council member, my colleagues, and the mayor in supporting this item.
Thank you. Do you mind reading us, Councilmember? Let's just go down the row. Councilmember Bowler, how about you?
Oh, thank you. Could I start with a question, actually? And this is
no questions. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Slide number 8 of 10 talks about possibly going for the exemption being 11 or fewer units rather than 4 or fewer. And I know you talked about that briefly, but maybe you could just comment a little bit more about that. I know there's very few projects in that.
Ms. Thorne-Lyman, you'd like her to?
Yes, Ms. Thorne-Lyman, thank you so much.
And are we bringing that slide up, whatever it is? I know what you're talking about.
And then I have another one that's an email too.
I just was opening that one too,
Yeah, so this was a recommendation by Planning Board, and just quite frankly, staff overlooked the recommendation, but part of the reason that we didn't feel that was a huge deal is we don't see projects in the 5 to 11 unit range in Alameda right now. So it would be, I would hope we would. I would hope we would see these smaller, that would be amazing to see these smaller unit projects, but they're not a prevalent product type. So I think it would be great to do that change, but it wasn't really a high priority, so.
And just why? What's the rationale to do that change?
Well, just policy-wise, in terms of like where the Bay Area has been heading, there's been a lot of dialogue about missing middle housing, which is this smaller housing product type. If you're getting a small building like this, it's more often wood frame, walk up. It's cheaper to build. Sometimes the rents can be cheaper, not always. And so there has been a lot of encouragement to have this kind of smaller product type, and it also can infill on very small sites, right? And you could have like small clustered housing. I mean, a lot of Alameda's older rental housing stock actually has this beautiful character of these, very, 8-plexes kind of type building. They just aren't very commonly built. But why not encourage them? Why not remove the inclusionary requirement? You could either choose to exempt them entirely. Right now, as I mentioned, projects in the 5 to 9 unit range in the draft ordinance would pay a fee instead. So you could remove that. So it's really how you all want to handle it. I don't think you're going to be effectuating a massive sudden construction of the missing middle product type, but why not encourage it? It's something we would love to see more of. Oftentimes it's very small scale developers, local developers who are doing this kind of stuff, often local to the specific town they're being built in.
And I just want to thank you for all the work that the department's done, and Mr. Thomas too. Thank you both to you. And we had a conversation. There's actually there's a staff communication from staff that's published under this agenda item, and it has an email exchange that we had. And I'm just asking the city clerk. This is a paragraph that has some proposed changes to it in bold, and there's also a section that's underlined, which I added later after our email exchange. But basically, it kind of goes back to what Vice Mayor Pryor was saying, in that, it's a little bit confusing when you first grapple with this. But I think also in terms of legislation, it makes sense to make sure that the purposes are really clear if there's any type of interpretation later, and that this is, I think, if I understand it correctly, it's an intent to have really equivalent terms. And so the additional phrase that I added there was, rather than representing a reduction in the overall affordable housing obligation. So that's not, I don't understand that to be the intent, that we're making a change that would make less affordable housing. In fact, we're just trying to get more affordable housing by having more options to get to the goal. So these sentences that are in bold, and then there's a few phrases in bold, are what I would propose as a addition or modification of that particular paragraph. And I don't know if you want to comment on the portion, on any of this, or the portion that I added with the underline, if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Thomas to fill in if I don't say it all. But what I would say is I think this really fits with the spirit of the intent of having different affordability levels, and provides a record for posterity for those who didn't get to engage in this dialogue, that we're not letting developers off the hook by choosing options 2 or 3 or even 4. They are all the same financial contribution. So it is less units you're getting overall, affordable units, but you are getting the same amount of affordable housing contribution in terms of dollars, and you're serving lower incomes. So I would agree with the recommended change in the sense that it is tricky because what we were trying to use MTC's, the phrase economically equivalent is a phrase MTC uses in their transit-oriented communities guidelines. That's something that we've pulled directly from what they have recommended that cities do. But it is a phrase that doesn't really impart the fact that by providing fewer units at lower incomes with deeper subsidy, you are in fact making the same financial contribution, and you're serving a household that maybe has more need. So I don't think it changes the requirements in any way, but it maybe provides a little more context to the ordinance.
Thank you so much. That's all I have right now.
I have a question about that, and then I'd like to have our legal counsel, Cara Silver, weigh in. But I may be reading this differently, but that phrase, rather than representing a reduction in the overall affordable housing obligation, are we referring to the RHNA numbers? Because that is our affordable housing obligation, and that is a set number. So regardless of how we look at equivalency, we don't have the ability to modify our RHNA obligation. So I'm just wondering, other than sort of a philosophical view, what does that really add? And then I'm just going to ask Ms. Silver if you would weigh in.
Sure. So the added phrase, I think perhaps instead of obligation, the term requirement could be used. And so I think the intent of that phrase is to say that the requirement of the affordable, the inclusionary housing requirement in the ordinance can be met in several different ways. And the RHNA obligation is obviously a separate issue.
That's an obligation, but is it more than virtue signaling? I mean, help me understand your reasoning for including
Well, I mean, the additional phrase is probably not absolutely necessary. It just puts more of an emphasis on the intent here is the intent of the legislation is to fulfill that requirement, right, in these different ways. But I was just trying to add a little extra emphasis to it. I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. I don't know if the mayor's comments do. I don't know if you're referring specifically only to the part that's underlined as opposed to anything else. Because everything that's in bold is what I'm thinking would be helpful to add or amend this paragraph. And then the portion that's underlined and also bolded is the part that I added after the exchange by email with staff.
You know me, I tend to think that less is more, and I like simplicity and directness of language, but that's my opinion. Mr. Thomas, do I see you with something you wanted to add? No, I'm sensing.
He's trying to coach from behind.
Bring it on.
We think the language in general is good. So many people have made the same, didn't understand this paragraph. So when talking and emailing with Councilmember Bowler, we need to explain what's going on here a little bit more so people, future staff, developers understand. You get a choice of options, and the public understands. And they're of equal value to us, the city. So that was the intent. I think in terms of Mr. Bowler's addition, underlined, I think as the attorney was suggesting, Cara, instead of affordable housing obligation, which does immediately bring to mind the RHNA, it's the inclusionary housing requirement that I think you're referring to. Just because one is 8% and the other is 15% doesn't mean the 8% is a reduction in the inclusionary housing obligation. So, I mean, from staff's perspective, we're comfortable with it, but the intent here is to be clear. So if there's anything in this language that you think is just adding more confusion, then the purpose of adding the language is it's not working. So we want to try to make it understandable to future users of the ordinance, future councils, future planning board members.
Can I just say?
You may.
Yeah, thanks. I don't have a strong feeling about the underlined language. I don't necessarily have a incredibly strong feeling about any of it, but I do think it makes it more clear in general. If other council members don't want to do the portion that's underlined, I don't think that's a problem.
My problem with the underlined portion is it's not quite accurate. The words on the page, I think you meant something, but it means something else, and that I do have trouble with. Vice Mayor Pryor.
Yeah, so just I'm going to say I definitely support this. At first I was like opining for example, I think I talked about this earlier, like what option would I prefer, option 1, 2, or 3? But one of the speakers made a really good point about that this just provides flexibility that is going to help launch this project. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. There's a huge need. And also, too, just for clarification, just for the community, there are units right now that are considered moderate that are not, that are vacant because people tend to not apply for them. It's a lot of work, and people were like, well, I'll just pay market rate. I'm being very, I'm generalizing a lot. But the point is, there are vacant units, and we need every possible space. So I really am excited to have to fill this, with low income or very low income, or and to provide the flexibility for however that looks. And to Director Lyman's point is. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But back to Director Lyman. I do like the suggestion that we revisit this ordinance regularly. I don't think that we're going to. This probably could be tweaked, or things change, and we might need to change, or we might need to change things. And now I'm going to jump to the housing project requirement. So the way, it's currently written, 4% very low, 4% low, and 7% moderate, but there were homes not being, I don't know if sold is the right term, but that were, because people that might be considered very low or sometimes low were having difficulty coming up with a down payment. And so but in the meantime, we want people to own homes. It just builds equity and generational wealth, et cetera. So anything that's going to get us closer to that, I'm in favor of. And then again, to Abby Thorne-Lyman's point, we should definitely revisit this. So overall, I'm very supportive of this. And I do think it's something to consider doing the projects with 11 or fewer units, because it might incentivize somebody to build here, and we need every home we can get. So thank you.
And Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. I have would like to ask Mr. Thomas some questions. Welcome back. My questions are related to when you were the Planning, Building, and Transportation Director in 2022, and the Regional Housing Needs Assessment was passed. So my question is, why wasn't the ordinance changed when the housing element was redrafted?
This represents a fair amount of work, and as you might remember, in 2022, we had a lot of work on our plate. Adopting the housing element required identifying all the sites. There was also, as you may remember, a zoning text amendment that went along with that, which was over 100 pages long. So we had our hands full, and it's not unusual for a housing element, no matter what city, Alameda, cities around California, to identify, and it's a requirement of the housing element, to identify any future actions that are necessary that might help facilitate. So this was one of those actions that through our public workshops on the housing element, with our planning board hearings, it was identified. We started hearing these issues back then about the moderate, about the very low ownership, the moderate rentals. So we knew we had a problem. We knew it would take some work, but it wasn't something that 3 planners could sit around a table for a couple hours and figure out the solution. We knew it would require a fair amount of effort, so we put it in as an action.
Thank you. And it sounds like you didn't know what the impact of the ratios and of the original ordinance would be.
Right.
When the RENA was adopted. And so, in your opinion, in your expert opinion, which I know is expert, if the inclusionary ordinance had been updated in 2022, do you think Alameda would be further along now in our meeting the RENA targets?
Well, I think we might be. I mean, I'll be honest. I think regional, national economic conditions are the biggest single issue that is slowing housing development. It would have been great to have these amendments done 2 years ago. Maybe one or two other projects would have moved forward in the meantime. Maybe Alameda Marina would have broken ground a year and a half ago, not this summer. So, yes, I wish we had, but better late than never, I guess.
Well, and I want to ask you one more thing. I do support Councilmember Bowler's language because I want it to be really clear that these are options, but they're not options to eliminate inclusionary housing, that the goal is still to have inclusionary units throughout our city. And with regard to that, though, Section 30-16.6B of the ordinance for clustered development, that's the clustered development, I want to appreciate first that it is very extensive. It does kind of, especially the last sentence, the proposal locates the affordable housing in a transit-rich, high-opportunity neighborhood that provides access to jobs, transit, schools, and services. So my concern initially with clustered housing, with having a clustered housing option, was that perhaps it would be incompatible with inclusionary goals because by distributing low-income units in one area, areas that might tend to concentrate it. So can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, as Director Thorne-Lyman mentioned, we've done a number of these clustered developments in Alameda. The Del Monte project has the affordable housing clustered in a single building, and not all, but much of the big building is market rate. There are moderates in it. Site A, there's the market rate townhome buildings, and then there's the affordable right next door. So with the cluster development we've been doing, all the way back to Bayport, 20 years ago, was technically a cluster development. We have found that it's worked well in Alameda, where, as Abby described, a portion of the site is dedicated for the affordable. The land is dedicated in perpetuity to affordable, not 99 years, but the land is conveyed to either the housing authority or the nonprofit that provides affordable housing. So there's been a lot of benefits. What is interesting is in 2004, when we wrote the ordinance, that wasn't on our mind. So for 20 years, we've been doing this type of development without it being codified in our ordinance. So that, I think, is first and foremost the thing that we wanted to update, to really put those requirements and standards into an ordinance. It's gone well in the past, but we want to have it for the future. This also covers, though, the possibility, which has always sort of been in the ordinance, for what most of us would refer to as off-site, where the market rate is in one neighborhood and the affordable is in the other neighborhood. And that is where some of those standards that you read come into play.
Right.
Like, it's if you're going to put the affordable in a location that's not where you're building your market rate, it better meet these standards.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'll also say that in 2004, when the first inclusionary housing ordinance was written, there were clusters because half of Alameda, or more than half of Alameda, wasn't available for any expanded housing. So
that's right.
I appreciate this. I also want to appreciate the in lieu fees because that was, I know, a big discussion of the planning board and in our last meeting here to have the in lieu fees right now between 5 and 9 units. Maybe that would change at some point, but give some options at least. And so I'm just very supportive of all the work that's been done. I know this has been a big project, and I appreciate everyone's contributions, especially the planning board and staff. And it is clear that moderate income units are not adding value to development in Alameda, and so hopefully with these changes, we can move forward with some of these important projects.
Thank you, and I'll go last. And just for clarification, we actually aren't discussing in lieu fees this evening, right? Because they're going to come back after there's been a fee study. Is that correct?
Yes. It's one of the alternatives.
So that is correct, but I think that there is a question about whether you want to adopt the planning board's recommendation to exempt all projects under 11 units or keep the in lieu fee.
Right,
option.
to exempt them from the fees. Yeah, we aren't making, yes, okay. Thank you for that clarification. And let me just start in no particular order, but because we were talking about the cluster option to perhaps have 100% affordable buildings, all the units. I think it's really important to acknowledge that there should be no stigma attached to affordable housing. I know that sometimes that term causes, strikes fear in the heart of some. It is irrational. And the quality of housing these days, you can look around the island and be hard-pressed to tell which is the affordable and which is the market rate in places like Bayport, which, they did combine them, and other examples. So I think that flexibility is so important, and if that is the tool that helps that developer build, and this came up in the context of transit-oriented communities, and I'm on MTC, and we've spent a bit of time on that. So if we can get folks who are at the affordable income level, also bear in mind that in the Bay Area, the very high cost of living Bay Area, that's a pretty significant income you'd have to be making anyway. But if we can get them living near transit stops, it just helps them get to their jobs and back faster. It's a benefit for communities. So I think we should be fine with that. I did want to talk a little bit about the optionality. I think we heard the term to give the developer the choice of which of the categories or combinations of affordability they want to pursue. I do not want to leave that solely in the hands of the developer that they are building in our city. We know better. I'm also on the board of directors of League of California Cities Local Control. We know what is best for our cities. And so I just want something, I think, Mr. Thomas, we were communicating this afternoon, and you mentioned that it doesn't have to be the city manager, it could be with consultation from the planning director, and that might be more appropriate because the planning director is more of a subject matter expert. Do you want to come up and talk about what that might look like?
The conversation that we had this afternoon with the mayor was about the three options, and you've heard the argument for giving the developer the choice. And what we tried to create was choices with the sort of the philosophy that, from the city's perspective, it doesn't matter which one you pick. They're all equally good for us. So go ahead, pick the one that works best for the project. Whatever that issue is, it doesn't really matter to us. You're going to build a project, and you pick one of those, we're good to go. And what we liked about that was also from the developer, when they're first coming in, their first decision to explore the possibility of doing a housing project in Alameda, they can start doing the math on that day with certainty. They don't have to wait till the final planning board hearing or the final city council meeting to know, what do I need to do? Like, does it get changed in the process? The issue that was brought to my attention by the mayor and also by others, there might be a scenario where everything works great, but we're getting close to the end of the 8-year housing term. So for those of you who remember the housing element details, there's a total number of units, but there's also an obligation within the total number to have a certain number of very low and a certain number of low and a certain, so the scenario might be, and this is theoretical, but it's possible. Let's say over the course of the next 5 years, all the developers say, we want to do the low. We like that option. It works great for us. And we end up getting very few, very low units. And we get to near the end, it's year 7 of the RHNA period, and now we're worried, like, are we gonna meet our RHNA or not? We're super close, but we're way low on one category. So the thought was, and we provided some language, if you wanna consider it, where we say these are up to the developer. Developer gets to choose, unless the planning director makes a recommendation to the planning board or city council that the city really needs one of the other options. So I think
And Andrew, if I can
for
jump
that
in,
purpose.
and it's not just so we can fulfill a formula, it's because that formula was developed to begin with to address the needs that we had for these different housing types. But I also agree with you that we would do this from the very beginning. We do not want to delay developers. We don't want to come in at the 11th hour. But it makes me very uncomfortable to say we will give the developer all the cards and they can decide how to play them. Not that long ago, it's a little different situation because it involved the density bonus law, but we had a developer come in and say, yeah, I'm going to exercise my rights under the density bonus and tear down, for everyone who's listening from Harbor Bay, it's not happening, but he made a proposal to tear down the whole shopping center, including the grocery store, and build only housing. And so I always want someone from the city, and the planning director would be great, but I do think we need to build that in to the ordinance.
And if I may just add,
Please.
The reason we thought we could add it in with this sort of it's your choice, developer, of these three, pick which one you like, and you get to do that unless the planning director makes this kind of recommendation to the city council. In practice, how could that work, given what I just said about the need for certainty? The developer comes in on day one and says, I want to do option 1. Mr. Planning Director, or Mrs. Planning Director, are you going to have a problem with that? And you have that conversation on day one. Hope, like today, if somebody came in, we'd be like, no, we don't have a problem. We need all those units. So we're not in that scenario. Maybe there's some other strange scenario that we're not thinking about, but this kind of little caveat, this little exception would give the city the ability to go, whoa, I'm sorry. In this
I think
case,
it's an important safety net, so I would like that in there. And let me just ask you, don't go away, Mr. Thomas, come back. In the previous report to the city council, so last year, I guess, there was discussion about the very low income category, and the statement was made that there's less need for that because the housing authority tends to build those units. Is that not correct?
No, I wasn't here for that conversation, so I'm speaking out
There you
of
go.
context here.
All
but
right.
We need very low units.
Okay.
Our housing authority
Okay.
does do a great job of providing them.
But we need more.
But yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that. But speaking of housing authorities, I can't remember if I talked to you about this or not. There's a documentary called Under the Bridge that we're going to try and bring to the Alameda Theater, but it is amazing about what cities like Milwaukee and others have done. Milwaukee, Wisconsin has the lowest per capita number of homeless individuals in the nation. But among the things that they do in Milwaukee is their housing authority puts folks who are unsheltered, puts their applications at the top of the list whenever Section 8 housing becomes available. That's something I'd like us to look at here. So just keep that in mind. And then I also just want to add that not tonight, because it's not within this report, but we do need to do everything we can, and there's certainly, this ordinance addresses that, but we need to do as much as we can to enable ownership opportunities for those first-time buyers. You remember what that was like once upon a time, Vice Mayor? And one of the things that a webinar I recently attended suggested was that cities need to revisit their accessory dwelling, their ADU ordinances, to allow the ADU to be sold separately from the main house. Right now, it has to be owned by the owner of the main house. But I think I've heard something might be coming to us soon. Ms. Silver?
It just came to the planning board at the last meeting,
all
so it will be
right.
coming to the council shortly.
Okay, that sounds great. And so then, and I am fine with removing the in lieu fee requirement for those units that might provide the missing middle, because who knows, even though we haven't seen a lot of demand, maybe if that requirement wasn't there, we would. And anyway, and yes, echoing my colleagues, huge thanks for all the work that went into it. On the language change, I wouldn't want to see the underlined portion of that. I couldn't approve that, but if you wanted to excise that, I would be okay with that. Generally speaking, I'd rather leave drafting to staff because they consult with our boards and their subject matter experts. But I mean, I like the language, except the that second phrase after the comma is a bit ambiguous, just given housing laws.
What about if it said, rather than representing a reduction in the inclusionary housing requirement?
I'm not even sure why it has to be spelled out. I think res ipsa loquitur, but the thing speaks for itself. But I also don't want to spend too much time on this, but the phrase after the comma just isn't accurate. So say it again, what you were proposing.
For the underlined portion, instead of what you see now, rather than representing a reduction in the inclusionary housing requirement. We can always ask staff to weigh in.
Staff, either Ms. Silver or Mr. Shen, or Ms. Thorne-Lyman. You all who do this professionally.
From a legal standpoint, we don't have a problem with that particular edit as restated.
That was the phrasing we were sidebarring on that might be a good recommendation, actually, was using inclusionary requirement, since this is the inclusionary requirement ordinance.
Okay. All right. That works for me.
I know, that's how I type.
Okay, I could live with that. In the, yeah. All right. That's better.
Do we want to put the language that you were suggesting here as well? I don't know what the...
I wasn't suggesting language. I leave it to staff
I
to
don't
draft.
agree with that. I don't think that's necessary, and I would, since staff has said that they'll be bringing back the ordinance, and we have another 4 years and we're trying to build more housing, I would give more flexibility, since it's not going to reduce the burden. It's going to maintain the requirements that there be low and very low income housing. And so we allow for, in all of our decisions with regard to housing, we don't have a small box that we put developers in and to say you have to build it 3-story with 3 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms. We have flexibility. We have ordinances that to maintain continuity, but we also leave it up to the financer and the developer to make certain decisions. And I think this is a good compromise, and I don't think that we should tie the hands of developers. As Mr. Thomas pointed out, we get this, when we have a developer come in and want to break ground and do a project, we should give them this flexibility, since we're looking at the big picture right now. So I disagree respectfully with your suggestion, Madam Mayor.
Actually, I don't quite understand what it is you're objecting to.
Okay. Well, then I'll move approval of the recommendations from staff with Councilmember Bowler's amendment.
Yeah, he changed the language, and I said I agreed with the changed language. You might have missed that when I said it. I think we're on the same page. All right. Madam Clerk, did you get all those many changes? All right. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to make one
Please.
minor but important clarification. Please. We reviewed the MTC's TOC policy guidelines, and it is actually fewer than 11 units, not 11 units or fewer. So it's 10 units can be
Okay.
exempted, but the TOC policy, to be consistent, it's.
Please make it consistent with the TOC
Yes,
policy.
Thank you. Okay.
That would be important. Okay, all right. Madam Clerk, did you have any questions?
No, I think that that's the only language council wants to add to the ordinance. It'll come back at final passage
Yeah.
with just that addition
And I
and
was,
the change.
I
that
was
Abby
fine the
outlined.
way it was changed, so
But
that's
Cara
fine.
has one, maybe.
So who would like to make, oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
apologize.
No,
And
please.
So, just to clarify, so you do want to accept the recommendation of the planning board to include the exemption for
The MTC
11 or
TOC
fewer,
compliant.
fewer than 11.
Yes.
And that would be in,
In the
let's
inlay
see
section,
here, in section 30.16.5
Oh,
B. And then we would also delete section 30.16.6A, which allows an in lieu fee option, but since those
Right,
are
right.
being exempted, we
Yeah,
would
yeah.
eliminate that. And then we have Mr. Bullard's language.
Yeah, as amended. Okay.
Is that the motion? I think it was
That's the motion to approve, made by,
Councilmember Jensen, right? She made a motion.
Yes, she did. Yes.
I was just
Yeah,
trying to
I'm
get
just
clarity.
looking at,
if
what was
that's-
13.6.6A? 30.16.
30-16.6, it's alternatives, then paragraph A is in lieu fees.
Oh, so we're deleting that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we're not going to require in lieu fees for 10 or less or fewer units.
But we are maintaining the, and it's 16.6, that's what was a little confusing, 16.6. So we're not going to allow an alternative for in lieu fees, but we will allow our clustered development alternative.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yes, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we've had a motion by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor.
But just to clarify, sorry,
Just
Madam
let me
Mayor.
finish my sentence, if you would, please. I like to finish sentences, because otherwise I lose my train of thought. Staff, is there anything we should know before we take a vote? When I see those heads together, I just wonder. Okay,
Thank you. That
Councilmember
was my
Jensen, back to you.
It was a little confusing. So we're not adding any additional requirements for approval of the options, correct?
That what Mr. Thomas explained about the consultation with the planning director for,
That isn't in the recommendations. That's not what is being recommended.
So that was not in the motion, but if you want to add that,
I
we can
do.
include that.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you
do.
want to make a substitute? I don't think that's necessary.
I do. I think that there needs to be input from the city in that very respectful, in the very beginning of a project. And so I would just like to add that. And Mr. Thomas, I thought, laid it out very succinctly, and he has decades of experience on this. So I would modify the motion. I'll make that substitute motion. Would you second that?
I'm thinking yes. How is that worded?
Come on up, Mr. Thomas. And let's see, we communicated about this earlier.
Nora, would you mind putting up Mr. Bowler's
Oh, yes.
language? Because I think we would insert this if the council.
This is about the consultation with the
Yes,
planning director? Okay.
yes.
Oh, it's there. Okay, good.
So this is the section that says you get to pick the three options. And then Mr. Bowler's language explains what we're thinking there. So the first sentence reads, inclusionary housing units shall be provided at one of the following ratios as chosen by the developer and approved by the Affordable Housing Plan. Then, comma, unless the planning director determines that a particular option is essential to the city's efforts to meet its regional housing need or other policy. Oh, are you typing this in?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Unless the planning determines that a particular
Yeah.
option is essential to the city's efforts to meet its regional housing needs allocation or other policy objective, in which case the planning director may recommend and the approving body may require an option that is different than the developer's requested option. Yes.
Really long. It was much longer than I expected. I thought I would be able to do it really quick.
I know. That's funny.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think this is, I mean,
Yeah.
the point is, this is where we say, developer, you get to choose. So if we're going to put in this little exception, this is, I think, probably the right place to put it, although it sounds very wordy, but.
But this does not establish any requirement unless there is a planning director need
Right,
for.
That's what I was sort of thinking. How
Right.
do we set this up? So we say, developer, you get to choose.
Right.
But check with the planning director to make sure there's not some unusual situation where the planning director is going to go to the planning board and say, hey, we don't think you should let the developer have this option.
Thank you. And so if I could ask legal staff, would you expect that this wording would establish that the planning board would have to do a review of every development option to determine if the request is okay, or ask the planning director or city council to?
Right. Under this particular wording, this decision would be made at a director level, so it would not go to the planning board or the city council.
And this would be different from a, for example, for a planning staff recommendation to adopt and approve an inclusionary housing option in general. So, I mean, I guess my question is, would each time a developer came in and said, for example, when the Foundry starts, oh, well, we're going to want to do it this way, is that going to be a setback? Are they going to be, is planning staff going to have to say, well, gee, do we have enough low and moderate and very low units
Mr.
right now?
Thomas, maybe you want to clarify that it's just at the end of the RENA cycle when this would kick in. Do you?
Yeah, if you want to put it in to start in 2028, that's another option, or 2029. Or
The only scenario that I can think of where a planning director would want to say, hey, planning board council, I think we should mandate option one, even though the developer wants option three, is this end of RENA cycle where we're very short on a particular kind of affordable housing units.
Okay.
Now,
Didn't Ms. Silver just say the planning director could make that decision? They don't have to go to?
Well,
or you're going to work, director would be working with the developer, right?
well, yes, but almost all of our projects need planning board or city council approval. There are some all affordable projects that have ministerial review, but I mean, all the projects we've been talking about have to go to planning board and council. So that's why I was thinking, at the end of the day, it's going to be the planning board and council that needs to approve the project. But there might be exceptions where it would just be at the staff level.
Been through a couple of housing elements, it is really important to meet your RENA numbers, so that's why I'm suggesting this. But what were you saying, Ms. Silver?
Yes, I apologize. As I was answering that question, there was some additional typing, and the additional verbiage said that it goes to the approving body. So it is not accurate to say under the existing language that this is approved at a staff level. It actually, under the language, does go to the approving body, whether it's the planning board or council.
May I be heard?
Yes, Councilmember Bullock.
Oh, thank you. I had offered at the beginning to maybe insert the language that as I understand it, but the more I hear this and I looking at it seems pretty broad. I know the intent is to be pretty narrow in a very unusual scenario down the line that hopefully we get to where that close to that sounds like a great problem to have. But I've also heard that we have also an intent to revisit this on occasion over time, which takes care of this problem too, right? Because then the city council, the staff can massage it, change it. So I'm actually convinced by Councilmember Jensen this isn't necessary. I think that Mr. Thomas basically, in some ways, talks us out of it too. So I don't think this particular language, it just creates too much of a barrier for developers, too much uncertainty, and too much process.
You know what, we need to do a motion because I need a few more minutes to close out this vote. I need a motion and a second to give me 2 more minutes, essentially.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Okay. Okay, you know, good point, Councilmember Bowler, about the more frequent review. So I think this could be looked at almost like a pilot to see how it's working. And then as time goes by, we'll see, are we getting the kinds of housing product that we need? And if we find that we aren't, then there's always something that can be done. It's an ordinance, it can be amended. So I think that's fine. So we'll go back. I will accept the language now that it's been neatened up a bit. And we've already had a motion and a second, so we just.
With that original language, great.
Yeah, so, well, not the original
I
language.
mean, Greg's additional without the other addition.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
we've got it.
Without the misleading
Okay.
stuff. Okay, so all those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. All right, that was unanimous, I believe. The motion passes. We have now been meeting for almost 2 hours, so we need to take a break. It is 9:09. We will come back at 9:20, everybody. So see you back here at 9:20. All right, I'm calling the meeting back to order. Is the balcony ready? Okay, the balcony is ready. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please introduce our next item?
7B is a recommendation to receive an informational report on the status of City of Alameda vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts as mandated by Government Code Section 3502.3.
Hello and welcome.
Hi, yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the Council. My name is Noelle White, Human Resources Director for the City of Alameda, and tonight I'll be presenting on the status of the City of Alameda vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. So a little background, AB 2651 was passed into legislation in late 2024, which amended the government code requiring all public agencies to present annually on the status of their vacancies, recruitment and retention efforts, and then any necessary changes. This amendment to the law also entitled Recognize Employee Units to make a presentation during the public hearing, and that if the vacancy rate of that represented unit exceeded 20%, they could request additional information. Little workforce information. So starting January 1st, 2025, we had 598 full-time equivalent positions within the city. That did increase to 608 by the end of the calendar year. These positions cover all city departments, as you can see before your screen, providing a variety of services to the City of Alameda and internally as well. 2025 average vacancy rate sat at 10.44%, which by professional standards, that's well within a healthy range. A very slight increase from 2024, but less than 0.25%. Part of this analysis, too, is looking at a breakdown by groups. So this, the screen before you or the slide before you shows all of our represented units. We have 9 of them, and the vacancy rates for the 2025 calendar year. The only represented unit that did exceed that 20% threshold was the Alameda Police Officers Association, APOA for short, at 27.05%. All of these units were contacted, and APOA did request additional information, which will be presented later in this presentation. And then also this slide shows our unrepresented units and their corresponding vacancy rates. So a little information on recruitment. So a core function of the Human Resources Department is recruiting, right? Working with our department partners, looking at their staffing needs, maybe even projecting out so that we can really bridge that gap and minimize disruptions to services and making sure we fill those positions efficiently, thoroughly, and getting high quality individuals. The city, like most public agencies, follows a civil service process when it does its recruitments, which means that we're engaging in a competitive recruitment process, right? We are utilizing various testing tools to make sure that we are looking for the applicable knowledge, skills, and abilities, and creating a very effective candidate pool from which we hire from. So we filled a total of 101 vacancies in 2025. Through various means, either a new recruitment, we engage in that civil service process, some promotions, we had 30, which is a number I love to see, and then existing eligible lists, which means we've completed that competitive process. We have this wonderful pool of candidates. That classification has a vacancy. We can do a pretty quick hire. Average time to hire, 85 days. Which according to our applicant tracking system makes us about 50 days faster than our comparator agencies, which is fantastic. I'm very proud of that and very proud of the team, particularly because the civil service process can take time, and especially compared to the private sector who can make a hire like that, 85 days is pretty effective. Retention statistics. So retention, or attrition rather, when someone separates from the agency can happen for a variety of reasons, right? We can have retention triggered by an internal promotion, thus creating that vacancy, right? We could have voluntary separations because there's a promotional opportunity elsewhere, or retirements, that person entering into their next phase of their career, or really their life. We have newly budgeted positions. We added 9 this year. You can see up there we added the vacancies created by internal promotions. retirements, involuntary separations. Overall, the annual staffing turnover rate sits at 12.4%. Again, we're still within that healthy range per professional standards. Great. So as I mentioned earlier, APOA was the one represented unit that did exceed that 20% threshold and requested additional information be presented to you tonight. For 2025, the average vacancies within the unit is 21. A slight dip actually from 2024, which that was at 22. Number of applicants for vacant positions was 571 for the 2025 calendar year. And you can see the breakdown by recruits, graduates, and laterals. Laterals meaning that it's an individual from a law enforcement agency within California. They're moving over to us. Number of calendar days to hire, 224 days. Now, this is from the time the application is submitted all the way to that conditional offer is made, and it is a pretty lengthy process between going through that competitive process, entering backgrounds, and starting that recruit into the academy. So as always, we are working collaboratively with our departments and our bargaining partners to address vacancies, right, especially of that magnitude. Retention was a huge theme for negotiations with APOA, particularly addressing retention of officers between 5 and 10 years. So within that successor agreement, many of those provisions and extra benefits really targeted that group, and we're hoping to see the fruits of that collaborative labor between us and the POA. Labor relations, always maintaining those positive relationships with the groups. HR cannot be successful without effective relationships between the department and the bargaining groups. We rely on them heavily to come with us to job fairs. Some of the strategies that we use to really start showing the amazing Alameda culture is with ride-alongs, right? Having a candidate sit with a current officer, getting to see a day in their life and getting to experience what it would be like should they join APD. Another great example of maintaining positive relationships is working with the department on how can we be more efficient, right? We're taking a look at implementing a program called Vetted. One of the most laborious pieces of the background starts with the submission of the personal history form. Vetted allows us to make it more of an electronic, user-friendly process, alleviate some administrative burden, and hopefully will help speed up that process as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Any clarifying questions, Council?
I have a question.
I will call on Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. With regard to the discussion and the numbers for APD and APOA, you mentioned that in 2025 there was a vacancy rate of 21. Or there were 21 vacancies?
That was the average number of vacancies within the unit, correct. So 21 positions.
And the budgeted number is 88, is that correct?
So to clarify, the budgeted number of 88 is total sworn positions at APD. So when I say total sworn, that includes police officers, police sergeants, which those two classifications are under APOA, as well as then we have police lieutenants and police captains, which is our police managers. So that's what the 88 encompasses.
What is APOA budgeted number?
So we have, it's budgeted at 65 police officers and 13 sergeants. So if I do my math, 78, right? 12 sergeants, thank you, I'm sorry. So I stand corrected. So that would be 76? 77, excuse me. There we go. 77.
Oh, I see. So 77 officers, and there was an average vacancy.
So it's 65 police officers and 12 police sergeants.
Okay. Thank you. That was my question.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Parr.
On page 5, there are the vacancy information by labor group. I just have a question for the two, for electric utility professionals of Alameda, and then also IBEW. Their vacancy rates each are about 14%. Is this similar to what it was the year before, and is this typical?
It did increase from the prior year by a couple percentage points. We did have We did have quite a few individuals leave for a competitor agency. I am happy to report, though, that as of within a span of 6 months and as of January, of those 13 vacant positions, we've filled about 11 of them. So we're well on our way to addressing that gap. As to whether or not it's normal, attrition happens for a variety of reasons, right? So to label it as either normal or abnormal is a little hard to really identify. Now, you do have cycles where, yes, there's an increased amount of turnover, whether it's going to competitor agencies. You have an abnormal amount of retirements, which we saw quite a bit after the pandemic. That can trigger a sudden increase that may seem very abnormal compared to prior years.
I got it. Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? Councilmember Desag?
Thank you. I believe you sent an email with 3 tables indicating the distribution of filled positions today and positions when there's 76 positions and the distribution thereof. And then the last column is the 88 sworn officer, should we get there. The thing that caught my eye, and I think this is a positive thing, is it looks like the sergeants are increasing from the current authorized 12 positions to what I counted it to 14. So, so if that's the case, then that's good, because that means that hopefully people who are street police officers, when they're ready to go up.
Oh, I see. Sorry, not to interrupt you, Councilmember Desag. So the number of allocated police sergeants is not increasing. It's remaining at 12. So what you're seeing in the email that was sent earlier is a breakdown of where we plan on being, of filling positions within the next month or so, and projecting out all the way to December of 2026. We are anticipating some potential retirements, particularly at the police sergeant level. There's also some anticipated, it's not confirmed, but we do try to anticipate potential resignations and plan for it accordingly. So the breakdown was to show and to illustrate how APD is looking ahead, trying to be proactive, knowing that the onboarding process can be a long time, and again, trying to not only fill, right, but anticipate those future staffing gaps.
Okay. All right. Well, then, if you're not increasing the sergeant positions from 12 to 14, at least you're still staying at 12, so that's good. And I guess the same would hold for captains then, because the way that I was taking a look at the table that was sent to us is it looks like historically we have 2 captains, but that if you count the last column, that amounts to 88 positions, that we would have 3 captains. And I'm just saying this as a positive thing, because you want, positions in the middle ranks and the higher middle ranks, so that people who are street officers can stay in Alameda, because then they could, go up in the ranks. But so let me find out. Is it the same thing then? We are not increasing the police captains from 2 to 3?
That is accurate. So the number of allocated positions at police captain is 3.
Oh, so it is 3.
It is 3 currently, correct,
okay,
yes.
Good. Because historically it's 2.
Yes, historically it was 2, and then I want to say in either 2024, 2025, actually I think it's 2024, an additional captain classification was added.
And that's good, because then, the sergeants who want to move up, now they can move up to a new captain position.
Absolutely.
The thing that does catch my eye, and, something that I had mentioned previously, while the focus is certainly on the top line of 88 sworn officers, when you look at the street police officers, I'm going to call them police officers on the street. Historically, as we indicated, the numbers that we're looking at is 65. I'm counting, again, the three tables that was provided us. So currently, with regard to police officers on the street, because of the freeze at hiring no more than 76 sworn officers, that translates to, I believe, 53 police officers on the street. That would be the maximum.
I believe that's correct, yes.
So that's 12 less than our historic numbers, so that's still a concern. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any more clarifying questions? And Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Let me double check that. No, we do not.
Okay, so council, this is just a recommendation, and thank you very much, Ms. White, for the report. This is just a recommendation that we receive this informational report. It's now required by state statute. So if there's no further discussion, I'm looking for a motion in a second.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Daysog, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, so Madam Clerk, are you? Oh, you have to.
Stop for 7C, which
we'll give you a moment to transition.
Okay, it's adoption of resolution establishing a city council meeting technology disruption policy.
This is where you need your clone.
Yes. Basically, Senate Bill 707 amended many provisions of the Brown Act. It was kind of a big overhaul by the state legislator. Some of the requirements became effective January 1st. Others will become effective July 1st. One of the things that's required to be done before July 1st is establishing this technology disruptions policy. And it had to be done on a regular agenda as a regular item. Couldn't be on consent, like we had to draw a lot of attention to this. And I will point out that currently these new provisions sunset January 1st of 2030. So the good news is the city clerks and statewide, a lot of people worked on this, and there was kind of a sample policy to draw from. So the policy is before you tonight to adopt as a resolution, and it applies to most city council meetings except emergency situation, and then there's a few narrow exemptions outlined under the Brown Act. So what has to happen if this disruption occurs is the clerk or the mayor has to immediately announce the disruption, the mayor has to call a recess, and then staff has to work to try and restore the services. And there is a requirement that lasts an hour. So staff has to work for an hour to try and restore the services. Hopefully it would never take us an hour, knock on all the wood. I'm very superstitious about it. But that is a part of the requirement, is that you have to wait that whole hour. Then after the hour passes, if the disruption has not been resolved and you haven't been able to reconnect, basically the council has two options. You can adjourn the meeting, or you can take a roll call vote and state, that you're going to continue the meeting and that the public interest outweighs, continuing the meeting outweighs the public interest of not allowing remote participation. One of the good things in Alameda is if we do have one of these service disruptions and people were watching at home, hopefully they could find a way to come in or send somebody in or, send something in to let us know, their opinion, and we could still continue it. And then the other thing council can do is also decide to continue some of the items to other meetings. Like, oh, that wasn't time sensitive. Oh, we can do that. But like, say you were, we're in the middle of a big agenda and you had a big important time deadline item coming up next, you could kind of make that finding. And then there's future additional requirements in the policy that talk about how the minutes have to include the nature of the disruption, the efforts taken to restore it, the time the meeting was reconvened, and then that finding that the council was made if you continue the meeting without being, service being restored. So another requirement is that the policy, there has to be reference on the agenda about where people can have the policy. It'll be online. And we've also included in the policy that if the legislator doesn't extend the provisions, the policy will also sunset. So that is the whole policy. We didn't reinvent the wheel. We kind of borrowed and made it our own, but it's pretty straightforward. And I am available to answer any questions.
I have a question. So, do you know the rationale for the 2030 sunset date?
You know what? I never understood why they did it. I think they kind of maybe just were trying to say, because the other provision of COVID had a sunset date in it, I think they kind of just maybe kept that going, or, I mean, I think they'll extend it, right? Like
We'll figure out technology disruptions by 2030.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, if I might add one more
Please.
thing.
Yeah.
The city of Alameda really did a great job because we never stopped this remote public participation.
Right.
Most other cities did, or a lot did.
Yeah.
And so we're really ahead of the curve because a lot of them are scrambling to get it back up and running again and figure out how to do it. And then the other unfortunate thing is like areas that could be subject to rolling blackouts, thankfully we're a little more urban, that could interrupt their their service, and that could occur. And so the other cities are facing a little more complex issues than hopefully we are, but I am very superstitious. I'm not getting on all the wood, but yeah, just to add a little bit more.
Well, I just want to say we really appreciate all the effort that you and your staff have put into this. And you are absolutely right, because we lived through the pandemic together, and it was amazing all the new things we learned to do, and meetings, remote meetings, and all those good things. So any clarifying questions, Council? Do we have any public comment on this? Back to... Talk about multitasking.
No, none.
No, none? Okay, well, we'll close public comment. Shall we, we need to adopt this resolution. Councilmember Bowler?
I would move to adopt the resolution.
Thank you.
Establishing a city council meeting technology disruption policy, right? Yep, that's what I thought you
All right,
meant.
second.
And it's been moved by Councilmember Bowler, seconded by Vice Mayor Pryor. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. And thank you so much, Madam Clerk. That was awesome. All right, we are at the end of our regular agenda items. I don't believe we have any city manager communications this evening.
No.
And I don't see anybody who wants to make oral communications, and you have to be in the chambers to do that. No council referrals this evening. So why don't we do council communications? Because if you might remember, we skipped it last time because we went kind of. What?
We did it last time.
Did we do it last time?
No.
Oh.
We're
Well,
here
you
till
ran out
12:30.
of time.
We were here until past midnight. So
Oh,
we,
you're right.
yeah.
I totally forgot. You know, it was 2 meetings ago.
Yeah. No, you remember. I remember that. Anything to report, Councilmember Dayside?
No, nothing to report.
How about you, Councilmember Bowler?
No, thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Pryor?
I did. On April 24th, I attended the Alameda Alliance for Health. It was their 30th anniversary. And so I got to represent the city and provide them, I did a nice resolution and give them a little thing. I was very humbled because the two speakers before me were incredible. There's no way I should have followed them. It was Barbara Lee and Mayor Barbara Lee and Congresswoman Latifah Simon, and then Michelle Pryor. I was like, oh.
Perfect triumvirate. What do you mean?
Yeah, I was like, I can't top that. They were great. It was a wonderful 30 years. I mean, they've done so many amazing things. It was really an honor to represent the city and be there. And then I went to a ribbon cutting for Skin and Skin and Strand. I hope I wrote that right. But it was a really lovely grand opening. They had a feast. It was like a wedding. It was really nice. Sorry. And then I was like, Sorry, I'm just going through stuff. Dink, dink, dink. Oh, we went to the ribbon cutting for the Wellness Center.
That was amazing.
Yeah, Craig, you were there, weren't you? Yeah, that was incredible. I think, I was such a tiny little cog and just had campaigned for that. So to see it come to fruition, and it was just a stunning place. And Just,
Yeah.
I went in there, I didn't even feel tense, but I went in there and I was so relaxed. I was like, I didn't even know I had tension in me. It was just so many people that thought there were dozens and hundreds of people that made it happen. It was really wonderful. And what a beautiful building and a wonderful place for people, just giving them dignity and a nice, lovely place to recover. Okay, where are we? That was in, and I think that's, yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Councilmember Jensen.
Yes, thank you. I just had this up here. Inbox. And I wanted to mention that, oh, sorry, let me find it.
Would you like me to go while you're
Sure,
getting ready?
thank you very much.
Sure. Happy to do so. I'm going to just go backwards from the most recent. So this morning I was one of quite a few Alameda County mayors and all the supervisors attended this press conference to announce the point in time count results for 2026, and it was impressive. Yesterday, I joined the district directors for our two U.S. senators, Senator Schiff and Senator Padilla, as district directors. We've been wanting to do this with them for a while. We took them on a walking and driving tour of Alameda Point Director Abby Thorne-Lyman and Danielle Mueller, our Sustainability and Resilience Manager, were with us, and it was just a really nice opportunity to show them these projects and sites that we talk about and we're seeking federal funding for. And I'm hoping that we get some of those federal earmarks and funds that we've applied for. It's a very competitive process, so I just feel that seeing is believing, and we had a great day. On last week, I think it was Thursday evening, maybe May 14th, there was the Innovation Island Awards that the Chamber put on at Almanac out at Alameda Point, and different businesses and nonprofits got awards in various categories, and I am pleased to report that our own Abby Thorne-Lyman received the President's Award for just her outstanding service she does so much. It was a surprise. She didn't know that was coming. Earlier that day on the 14th, it was Bike to Wherever Day and also Bike to School Day. So I started out at Edison School, which was where I started out in school, so it was pretty sweet to be there. And then when we were on the schoolyard with the kids and teachers and the principal, but then when the bell rang and the kids went to class, a group of Edison parents and I rode to City Hall where there was an Energizer station out front. So that was nice to see. And the week before, on May 7th, that it's going to be a big deal when FIFA World Cup comes to the Bay Area next month. And we are hosting, we are the team base Camp City for the Australian Socceroos. They're going to be practicing out at the Roots practice facility at Harbor Bay Business Park. So there's a lot of security considerations that go into it, as you might imagine. So there was a meeting over in Mayor Lee's office, Mayor Barbara Lee in Oakland, with, my goodness, the Secret Service, TSA, FBI, Federal Air Marshals, and the police command from both Alameda and Oakland PD. So lots of security considerations, but it's also going to be really fun and exciting to host the Australians. The press pool will be staying in Alameda at the Harbor Bay Business Park, and they think families and just traveling fans will as well. So stay tuned. We're going to host a big party. And you probably saw the press release yesterday that we've announced our honorary Grand Marshal for the 4th of July parade, in which we celebrate the nation's 250th birthday. Our honorary Grand Marshal is our own Congresswoman Lateefah Simon, and she will lead the parade, followed by our fire chief, Nick Luby, and the men and women of the Alameda Fire Department, because AFD is celebrating 150 years of service. I said that's a lot of candles on a birthday cake, but we'll have the fire marshal there. Anyway, it's going to be a great parade, so get ready for that. Did I give you enough time? Councilmember Jensen?
Thank you. Like you, Madam Mayor, last week I attended Bike to Anywhere Day, and I was at Otis Elementary School. And while I was there, I heard the concerns of Otis parents who will be transporting their students to Lum School starting in September. Lum School is up to 2 miles away for some families, and almost all the students will now have to cross one of Alameda's busiest streets on their way to school. So I'm going to be working with APD and AUSD to identify ways to ensure safety during the year-long relocation of those 550 Otis students. And I chair the Alameda County Waste Management Authority, and it's a great organization. And at our recent meeting, the board heard about the Stop Waste Reusable Foodware programs. Alameda Public School participation is higher than anywhere else in Alameda County, with 22 schools reusing servingware and utensils. And I'm so excited about this because reducing plastic waste and teaching students to care for the environment is so important, and it's what Stop Waste is doing and what we're doing here in Alameda. Recently, I also attended the Buena Vista Methodist Church Spring Bazaar. Always a lovely community event and a great place to meet my neighbors and friends. And after watching my ukulele playing friends perform, I had the chance to speak with a representative from Wadi Faqeen in the West Bank about the proposed sister city relationship between Alameda and Wadi Faqeen. And as we spoke, we shared our frustration about the status of the proposal, which has been on hold since March 2025, when the City Council directed staff to work with Alameda Sister City Association to respond to a few questions. That report has been complete for some time, as I understand it, and although I've repeatedly asked for the item to be agendized, there has been no action. City leaders are sitting on the Wadi Faqeen Sister City decision without explanation. And this is exactly the problem that has grown more common since the departures of City Manager Jennifer Ott and Public Information Officer Sarah Henry. Unfortunately, transparency and accountability have suffered in Alameda. So I hope that incoming City Manager Jerry Badine, who I met with recently, will be able to reduce some of the friction in City Hall and stop the exodus of talented and effective leaders. We must restore public confidence in Alameda's government, and I think a good first step would be scheduling of the report and the vote on the Wadi Faqeen Sister City proposal as directed by the City Council. That's my report. Thanks.
Gosh, I have to just jump in and comment. I'm stunned because that proposal has come before this council before, and I recall you not supporting it, but it's always good for human minds to expand and consider new possibilities. I would take exception to the suggestion that it was some shortcoming on the part or departure on the part of city staff. As an elected official, I take responsibility for my own actions. Thank you. So now we will move on to actually adjournment. We are going to adjourn the regular council meeting, but we are going to continue our closed session about item item 3A. And so do you want to remind everyone what that was, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sorry. That was conference with legal counsel on existing litigation for the City of Alameda versus Greenway case.
All right. And so, you know what, let's just give ourselves a little break. It's 9:55. Would it be okay if we came back in 10 minutes? Just everybody can kind of shift gears and maybe put away your things for the regular meeting. Is that okay that we come back at?
Take their call right now.
Oh, all right.
It might
Okay.
take more than 10
All right.
minutes. But
Okay, that's fine. We will give you the back room. Don't. Yeah. Can everyone leave 391 to city attorney? Good. Yeah, that's fine. No, it's all yours and the cookies. Although most of the cookies.
10 minutes. the
All right,
recording.
tell
Hold
me-
on.
Okay. Tell me when.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, and it is still evening, everyone. We are back from our closed session. We needed to finish up an item, some discussion on item 3A. And so I would like to report that by a vote of 5-0, City Council gave staff, that is City Attorney Eben Chen, direction.
And there was 2 votes, 2 unanimous votes on 3A, one earlier.
Oh, okay, yes. Yes, we have, we held a total of 2 votes on 3A, and both of them were unanimous.
That's great.
Good. Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone. Drive safe. Thanks.